Tee us up.
It's the Boris Dirk podcast, and it is playoff time. We are in playoff mode, 0 Dirk 30. We're just ready to preview some playoff series. No game tonight. We are partway through the play-in bonanza, but we brought in a special guest to dive in to the series, the first round series. You guys know him. Most frequent guest on the pod, I would guess. Coach Godnick, how are you?
I'm great. It's an honor to be back. It's an honor to see both of you on the screen here, and can't wait to talk some playoff basketball.
Hell yeah.
Listen, man, I just had a beer on my walk home from work because I missed happy hour, getting some stuff done. The champagne is out. The Blazers are the 7 seed. God damn it, we are back. I love being a middle of the pack, late lottery playoff team. There is nothing better.
Hell yeah.
Let's get to work.
Let's do it. So we're going to start in the West. As Drew said, the Blazers are the 7 seed. We do not have an 8 seed yet. It's either going to be Phoenix or Golden State going against the Thunder. Since it's not finalized, we don't have to go too long on this one. But, Coach, do you think either of these teams could get more than a game off of the Thunder?
I really don't. I don't even know if they can get one game, either of these teams. I will say, at this age, I turned 30 in 3 months. There is something so beautiful still living on the East Coast, and it's 11:30 p.m., and you're watching Curry do what he did last night. Like, everything that I need is Curry to win tomorrow night to just continue this magical run of one game into 2 games into a full series, but not that both series will be a real quick one.
Yeah. Drew?
The play-in has been so good. I'm forgetting to hate Adam Silver every day. And I'm just, I hope it's the Warriors. Everyone hopes it's the Warriors. And I'm the Jordan Goodwin bandwagon leader. Actually, Coach is going to get mad I said that. But yeah, magical Al Horford shooting night. The lack of fear with him is very special. The Warriors vets just stepping up to the plate in these one-off games. How can you not be romantic about basketball?
Absolutely. Yeah, I have the Suns, I just think, would not be able to score.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, really fun sweep, unless Curry goes nuclear game 1, which I know Micah is betting on to hedge his happiness.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to a place near and dear to Drew's heart, Portland, where San Antonio will be coming to town for at least 2 playoff games in the first round. On paper, there are some things that could make this matchup a little bit interesting. I think particularly the big matchup between Klingon and Wemby. Just immense size on both ends of the court, insane rim protection on both ends between Klingon and Wemby. Wemby, maybe the most impactful defensive player we've ever seen. Klingon, a very good defensive center. I have a hard time seeing the Blazers really cracking the Spurs defense to a huge degree, but Drew, as a Blazers optimist, what would be the road to making this a competitive series?
Maybe the Spurs are the 2024 Thunder. Maybe the Spurs are as good as they've looked this season, and Wemby's already the best player in the world, and they are on their way to being right up there with the Thunder every year if their main guys are healthy. And still, maybe they're a year away because the Thunder were an incredible regular season team. They leap from the play-in game, losing or beating Brandon Ingram. No, they lost. They didn't make the playoffs that year. To the 1 seed in the West, and they still didn't have enough answers for Luka's Mavs. So maybe we're just lucky that we caught this team that looks well on its way to being special for a long time, just like a year before. They'd seen enough of these high pressure minutes because I only champ in this series, unless I'm forgetting someone. De'Aaron Fox has been in a couple playoff games, but no one thinks that he is like a playoff guy until he gives us a little bit of a sample.
Yeah.
I believe Wemby's going to be amazing. I don't think that Wemby's going to have a disappointing round, but if you have any hope in Portland, it's just maybe we got this insane young core just a year before they are ready to dominate in the playoffs the way they dominated in the regular season, because you cannot fake experience. And we saw it in the play-in last night. Like, something magical happens. The Warriors are too old to go deep into the playoffs. But every time Curry's in a play-in game, his team is better off because he's been the man in the arena in these high-pressure moments, playoff games that just feel a little bit different, and you don't know how your heart's going to respond until you're there. That is the dream with Portland, is maybe we just have a little bit more playoff experience, and you punch them in the mouth early, anything's possible. Like, look at what the Knicks did before the Tatum injury last year. This is more of a long shot than that series was from the Knicks perspective, but we also all had the Celtics penciled into the next round. So let's fuck shit up in San Antonio games 1 and 2, and from there, who knows? Portland's going to be rocking.
Yeah. San Antonio won the season series 2-1. That one game that Portland won, just checking real quick who was playing in that one.
I'm pretty sure Wemby missed all 3 games.
Yeah. So as always, as Russillo likes to say, the season series means very little, except in cases like the Thunder Spurs where that could actually be someone.
1 and 4.
Yeah. Andy, what's your read on this one?
My read is that the champagne is really hitting for our friend Drew over here. But no, watching Drew Holiday do what he did in the play-on game really makes you think that Boston's going to miss him in any kind of run that they're going to make. He's the kind of champion that I think can help a really young team like Portland in this kind of series. For me, when it comes down to it, they're going to rely a lot on Denny getting downhill to the rim, and having Victor there just protecting it on every single possession is going to make it really hard for Denny to have those 41-point performances. Obviously, that's not realistic every single night, but I think a lot of their offense is going to drive through that, and I know Drew is the real expert there with that. But I do think that Portland's going to get a couple games off of them. I think they have the firepower and the athleticism to kind of keep up there. For me, and I'm going to be saying this name a lot the rest of the podcast, I am really excited for what Castle is going to do in these playoffs. I know Harlan has some great calls for a Castle steal, a Castle block, a Castle dunk on someone. I think he's a real difference maker in this series.
Yeah, and not to bury the lead, extremely excited for playoff Wemby. Just to see what he looks like playing 32, 34 minutes a game. Like, it's been well covered and well documented. And part of the reason he probably won't win MVP is he's playing 29 minutes a game and has missed a number of games too. So I want to see what he looks like fully unleashed. I don't even know if they will fully unleash him to the point of like 36, 37 minutes a game, but 32, 34, where he's out there for the majority of the game and fully impacting, like going all out on both ends. I want to see what that looks like. We might not see it in the first round. He might not have to dig quite that deep. It might be more of a second round. But if the things that would give me the path for the Blazers to making this competitive, one is I think it starts with Klingon, and he has to really impose his size advantage on Wemby. And there's not that many people who can kind of out-massive Wemby. Klingon at 7'2", not quite as tall as Wemby, but obviously way sturdier and should be able to kind of impose himself on the glass against Wemby in a way that a lot of players can't. So that would be, I think, part one of the path. Shutting down the Spurs driving game with some of the length and defenders that Portland has between Kamara and Drew Holiday and some of the other guys on their bench, Thibault, I think would be key. And then the other thing is the Spurs don't really have that like big wing stopper. Castle is kind of like the 1 to 3. He's like most suited to guard those guys. He'll probably get the assignment on Denny to start, but he's got a significant height disadvantage against Denny. So the fact that the Spurs don't have like the specific defender tailor-made to guard Denny could provide like a little bit of an issue. But at the same time, like Denny's game, as Coach said, is so predicated on driving. And when you have Wemby sitting at the basket, like that's just going to make things tough for him.
Yeah, so the champagne is settled, so I'm ready to talk about basketball now. We should mention the play-in. What Denny did was right up there with some of Dame's like best performances ever. It's not just the raw numbers. It's the fact that he kind of lost his way in the third quarter. Looked like, you don't want Denny to be your go-to scorer on a team that's like really trying to win around in the playoffs. And then in the fourth, just tough bucket after tough bucket, like savage drives, finding ways to finish. I have not denied that he is a bit of an actor sometimes and that he knows how to sell a call. But I'm sad for him that that's become so much of the at least online narrative, because there's so much physicality and microcraft to his driving game that's made him as good as he is now. So he's done himself a disservice with a little bit of the whining, like so many really good players have in the NBA. I'm interested in like that, the 4 spot for San Antonio, because like that's the one thing that they're kind of missing. They don't have a true like rebounding physical 4 who fits well next to Wemby. You kind of just hinted at it, like Carter Bryant, they're going to toss out there at some point in the series and see how he fits. Everyone knows he's going to be really good, but he's still raw offensively, and he's the kind of guy who just you could kind of torture and sag off of on when he's on offense, and let him just take shots and be in his own head. So I do think we're a better rebounding team. To your point about Klingon imposing himself, like we have a couple options at the 4 that are just more physical, more athletic, more live-bodied, more ready to fight for loose balls than anyone in that segment of the San Antonio roster, because they don't like playing Kornet and Wemby together. Mm-hmm. That potentially could be a place to attack for us. But I just want to say, like, this team is not ready to outscore the Spurs 4 times. I think that much is pretty clear. The way that we fought in that play-in game, when they came out, punched us in the mouth, it was like 23-12. We're just like, are we not even going to get out of the gates? Are we just going straight to the next game? And Portland found a way, like 4 different times in that game. You know, we were up big in the second quarter. We had an amazing second quarter. And then at the end, we fouled Jalen Green on a 3, 4-point play. We're up like 1 or 2 going into the half. And you're like, is that it? Is the offense going to dry up again in the third? Yes, it is going to dry up. And suddenly we're down 9-10 until like midway through the fourth quarter. And even like the last couple minutes, we were down like 4. And it was tough buckets from Denny, incredible one-on-one defense from Tumani, championship rebounds and grit from Klingon. Then we go small, which honestly, credit to Tiago. I thought it was short-sighted taking Klingon out, and Rob Williams is just such a gamer. Really, Rob Williams is one of the most talented bigs of this generation. It's too bad he didn't get a chance to be like a 32-minute plus guy, because if his body held up, like he's right up there. Thibault, I can't believe Thibault's like finally playing for us and giving good minutes. Scoot's defense, Scoot's shot making when he came back from 2 early fouls in the second quarter. I'm really, really proud of this team. And I came out goofy saying, we're in the playoffs, blah, blah. I am so happy to be rooting for a team that has a lot of human beings I buy into. We are so far offensively from being at the level of refinement you need to hang with the best teams in the league. But the foundation is there, and it's a really positive time for Portland. But San Antonio is for real. And chances are in half-court offense, they're just going to slowly choke us out because their defense is obviously no joke either. And I think the next frontier for San Antonio, again, will be finding like that front court mate. Every single draft comes around and Max and I are talking about, like Cam Boozer in San Antonio, or, name the like skilled big. Maybe they can even shoot, maybe not, because Wemby can shoot and it doesn't even matter. But at some point, if they can find next to Wemby what Sohan was supposed to be in my heart for them, it'll just take things to a whole nother level. And maybe that's going to be Carter Bryant. But we're going to have to dominate them around the edges, because that's what's kept the Blazers so consistent this year and feisty, is like we are really good, like 5 through 7, 5 through 8. And that's maybe where San Antonio's roster just thins out a little bit. We're not going to outstar them, but we might be able to outgrit them. And that is the path to winning a couple games and taking a lot of positives into the next season.
Yeah.
You've got me fired up after all of that. One other like fun little storyline to this series is I don't think the animosity is there, kind of how Wemby feels about Chet, but there is the story of Wemby and a Scoot dating back to the draft and the G League Ignite game against the Paris team that Wemby was playing on. I'm kind of interested to see if there's any beef there that's going to be brought up again.
Maybe it's all Scoot needs for the full breakout, is just to see that guy across the court again. The thing I'm most, as my sort of last thought on this series, and I've got probably Spurs in 5. I do think the Blazers will get a game. I don't think it's going to be a sweep. I'm most interested to see how the Spurs down the stretch clutch time offense looks. It's the one concern I have for them besides sort of the nebulous experience thing. And it sort of is a manifestation of experience, the clutch time offense. But it's particularly a concern when you look ahead to the next round if they play Denver or further down the line. As they get into these tighter and tighter moments, I want to see against an opponent like Portland, who's got legit defenders up and down the lineup. How does it like? Does it look gummed up? Does it look like it's really a struggle for them to get buckets down the stretch of close games? Or do they look more comfortable than I expect? Because I think both would inform me quite a bit for how I feel about them going forward, at least this year.
Yeah, this is going to be a magnificent display of also just like the athleticism.
Yeah,
the best, most talented teams have now. Like Tumani and Shaden, doing hurdle jumps against Dylan Harper and Steph Castle. Like wings are going to be flying around. No matter how long this series goes, you're going to see some electric quickness, defensive know-how too. Like these are both athletic teams that are well organized, who are clicking at the right time. So I think we're going to find out a lot about Scoot. It'll be interesting to see how Dylan Harper handles, being on the floor with Fox when he's not making shots, and Castle when the 3-point shot is not, drawing aggressive closeouts. There are these questions about the Spurs offense when things slow down. I just worry that we're not going to keep games close enough that it'll end up mattering in a real way. But when things tighten up in future series, that's going to be a real telling experience with San Antonio.
Yeah. All right. On to the next series, keeping pace. Maybe the most exciting series of the first round, Nuggets against Timberwolves. This is the third time these teams have matched up in the playoffs over the last 4 seasons. Nuggets took the first one en route to their championship. Wolves had the famous Game 7 comeback victory against the Nuggets a couple years ago. So these teams have obviously played each other a lot. They're both different teams than they were the last time they played 2 years ago. Coach, what's your initial read and lean here?
My initial read and lean is Nuggets. I wanted to be cool and say 5, but I don't think I'm that ballsy. I'm gonna go 6. The thing for me is, and I know we're not Randall fans here, I think this series is gonna really expose him even more than like ever before. I know we're also, well, some of us aren't huge Cat fans, but what the Wolves did a great job of in those victorious games against Denver was they would put Cat on Jokic and then have Rudy roam around there. And it really got to really tap into what Rudy's defensive stalwart really is, protecting the rim, being able to help off. They would put him on like Aaron Gordon, who's now a fantastic 3-point shooter, so that's even harder. But this year they've been putting Rudy on to Jokic. I think that takes a lot away from the defense that kind of gave problems to Denver. And the other aspect of it for me is the Ant off minutes. I don't know how Minnesota's going to score. There's only so many times he can say, yeah, but we have Jaden McDaniels, and I don't think that's going to work out this time. And I think people are going to really learn the kind of season that Jamal Murray has been playing. Like he's an all NBA player. He was an all-star for the first time. Like I'm really excited to watch his deep playoff run here. So I'm all in on Denver making this a relatively easy 6-game win, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think if they had Peyton Watson for the whole series, I would have said 5 because he'd be the person most equipped to guard Anthony Edwards on their team. I'm very happy you brought up the difference between Randall and Cat in this particular matchup, because Cat does at least provide some resistance to Jokic, where he's not by any means a great defensive player, but he is 7 feet tall with long arms and strong. And just that like 3 to 4 inch height difference between him and Randall, and also the associated wingspan difference, is just enough between like making Jokic have to work to score and kind of being roadkill. And I'm a little worried. And what it means is that Gobert now has to guard Jokic himself, which can lead to him picking up fouls. When he leaves the court over the past few years, their defense just completely goes in the tank. I would expect that to be an even bigger issue this year without Cat to provide resistance to Jokic, and also without Nickeil Alexander-Walker on the perimeter to pressure Jamal Murray. In that series a couple of years ago, it was like the combination of Nickeil and Jaden McDaniels that just gave the Nuggets ball handlers fits, particularly Jamal Murray. The fact that now it's just Jaden McDaniels and you have Dante, who's a good defensive player, and Dosunmu, who's a good defensive player, but neither of them are quite the like pterodactyl, freakish perimeter guys that Nickeil is. I just think Jamal is going to be a lot more comfortable this time around. Jokic is going to have a monster series, not having to worry about 2 7-footers all the time. And the rest of the Nuggets roster is better and deeper than the last time they played, when they kind of had the post-championship attrition down the line. So, yeah, I think if they had Peyton Watson, I'd pick 5. Without him, I think there is the issue that the Nuggets don't really have an answer for Anthony Edwards, and he could steal a game or 2 on his own. So I'll say 6. But yeah, I just think Jokic is going to have a monster series in this one.
Tough couple of years for coaches. You know, Finch, the knee last year. Blazers coach is about to go to prison. I should have added that to the Blazers thing. Like, oh my God, this started with Chauncey breaking the law and breaking hearts, and here we are. Yeah, like a simple conclusion does not imply a simple study, but I'm just going Denver. Mm-hmm. They've been too good and too okay through an absurd slate of injuries. It's Jokic, it's all the usual names. I mean, Murray's had an amazing year, maybe his best regular season. And it just feels like somehow, some way, Denver is healthy enough in time for the run. Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, the wings who have kind of taken turns being healthy, who are so core to their identity outside of the 2-man game at the top of it all. I'm going Denver, but again, not a simple study. The Wolves have made us look foolish back-to-back years. This team is so tough. They are so unafraid. Jaden McDaniels is my favorite contract in the league. He is special and fearless, and everyone knows and believes he's the best player in the Nuggets series. And if he doesn't, he is excited to turn that table on himself and everyone else, because he respects Jokic, but he doesn't for a second think the Nuggets are knocking them out in round 1. So I think it's going to be a battle. I think every time we write Julius Randle off, like he has a couple more playoff games in him. And I'm really going off of last year where he had some high highs and low lows as well. But I still can't believe the Wolves traded Cat when it finally worked, to your point. Like, he was key to their upset of Denver with his ability to put a body on Jokic and let Gobert rove. And despite DiVincenzo's ability to hit 7 threes in a playoff game and Randall's ability to get 30 and just be unanswerable on his night, you got to expect that Denver, with the roster that pushed OKC to the brink last year, is going to find a way in this round 1. Out of respect for the greatness and the championship experience.
A couple other things about Denver this year and the way Aaron Gordon's healthy now. Drew, as you were saying, health is really coming on for them at the right time. His shooting is really like not being discussed enough. He's shooting 43% on threes from the corner this year, 48% last year. He's a 39% overall 3-point shooter this year on 5 attempts per game. Like, he's a real threat there. Their whole identity in Minnesota was putting Rudy on him and then kind of sagging off. You can't really do that now. And if you're going to do that, you're going to get 5 made threes and a fourth quarter by Aaron Gordon, and then the actual season's over for you. The other 2 players I'm excited to watch on Denver are Pickett and Strother. I kind of think they could have some really interesting moments this year, whether it be one game or actually impacting a full series. Their depth right now, as you were saying, Drew, is really exciting.
Yeah, and Cam Johnson, he had a bit of a disappointing start to his Nuggets tenure after being sort of the prize of the Michael Porter trade, along with the flexibility that allowed them to sign Tim Hardaway, who's been a 6-man of the year level contributor this year. Jonas Valanciunas, who's tailed off a bit, but is still by far the best backup option they've had for Jokic since this era started. So both of those, I think, are going to take some pressure off of the starters to just like be elite at all times. And Cam Johnson has been over 45% from three since the start of March. He had a really hot December too. I'm looking at his month by month splits. In general, he's like well over 40% on the season and has pretty much been Cam Johnson for the last like 20 games of the season or so. So I just think their offense is when they have their five guys on the court, pretty much unguardable. They were the best offense in the league all season, despite all the injuries they had, which is a testament to Jokic and a testament to the just shooting talent they have on the team. And yeah, it just boils down to, I think this Nuggets team is deeper. Their supporting stars are playing better than they were the last time these two teams met up. And this Wolves team is just not quite as ferocious of a defensive team as they were 2 years ago. So for all those reasons, I got Nugs.
I mean, you guys know I'm no X's and O's guru, but when you look at the stars in this series, like Edwards and Gobert against Jokic and Murray, everyone on earth is taking Jokic and Murray. And you add to that you'd rather have like the next 3 or 4 guys in Denver, Gordon, Watson, Brown, Johnson. You mentioned Hardaway. It just from a pure production and resume standpoint, it's very hard to take Minnesota. And I say that believing that Minnesota is one of the more underappreciated teams of the last few years. I rarely see people just going out on a limb for Minnesota, which they deserve. They deserve to have fanatical believers who think that they're going to beat the Nuggets this year and maybe push the Thunder a little bit. They've done enough to earn that respect. And still, it just feels like Denver is healthy at the right time. Aaron Gordon was magical in the playoffs last year. So like he enters these playoffs thinking like he's just ready for it. He's built for it. This is like Orlando Aaron Gordon was a thing of our childhood. He's a different player now. He's a different person. He's a performative reader of the highest level. So yeah, I'm going Denver, and I will be laughing when the Wolves destroy our brackets once again.
Yeah, I would have like the Wolves if the Lakers had hung on to that 3 seed. I would have given the Wolves a real chance to make the conference finals again. And I think they match up better with San Antonio than Denver. But yeah, and the last thing with Randall is he doesn't have his game is really predicated on kind of bullying for the most part when he's at his most effective. When he's not his most effective is when he can't bully and he goes to like taking step back long 2s and step back 3s because the inside game isn't quite there. And he's just not going to have that physical advantage over Aaron Gordon that he does over some other guys. And I think it could be a tough series for him.
Yeah, it's the Mount Rushmore 2-man game against a lot of one-on-one, and also Denver's like always better at putting teams in the blender than Minnesota. And Ant took a leap this year. He's special. But it feels like Denver's just a half tier above them.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to the last series in the West. Lakers against the Rockets. A matchup that would have looked really fun on paper 3 weeks ago before Luka and Austin Reeves got hurt. Maybe there's some Spanish revolutionary muscle healing technology, which has not made its way out of the EU yet. We can hope. But Drew, how do you feel about this series?
I got the Rockets. Thank you to the best players on the Lakers for making this pick less sweaty for us. I think, like, God forbid Houston blows this series. That would be insane.
They might they're one of the bigger favorites of any series, I think.
For sure. I took for granted until like the last couple months, and I watched a decent handful of Rockets games this year, the season that Kevin Durant just turned in. And it really does feel like 37 is the new 32 in the NBA, at least for like the Hall of Famers who have just been doing it for this long. Basketball IQ plus modern medical technology just equals one of the better KD seasons in like a decade. So respect to Houston. The more I dig into the Şengün numbers, the more scared I am for them beyond this series. Even though I love Udoka and I love Reed and I love a lot of the culture that they've built. However, people feel about their half court offense and the stuff they create out of timeouts, they're gonna win because a 41-year-old is trying to carry the Lakers for several games, and it's just way too fast and way too athletic a game to ask LeBron to do that. But God, does he look good in the Instagram photos?
I wrote down, ugh, this sucks. And that's kind of like all I really have for it because this would have been so much fun. I would have definitely picked him. I would have definitely picked LA if the health was there. Like, in my eyes, if the Lakers have like prime Schroeder, are they winning this series? Because I kind of would pick them. Like we're gonna get a lot of everything's running through LeBron. He's gonna hunt Reed on every single ball screen. I'm very curious where they're gonna put Reed. Maybe on like Kennard, which then they're gonna flare shooters there. But very curious.
Maybe
We're
on
gonna
the
get
bench.
on the bench for the series. The thing with this one too is like we're gonna get a lot of feed Rui from the like nail. If he can have one of those, remember the series against Memphis? I think it was where he kind of just like caught fire. I think it was in his first year in
Yeah.
LA. He was just like making everything, and like TNT was like, oh, this guy can actually score and shoot. I just don't think there's anything enough offensively for LA to really find a way to win this one. If Steven Adams was there for the Rockets too, like I think he would just pulverize LA, honestly. Maybe if Ayton figures out how to, be a number one pick, which isn't gonna happen. But yeah, like it should be Rockets in 5, but I have too much respect for the 41-year-old to go 5, so I'm gonna go 6.
6.
I'm gonna
Wow.
go 6.
We need to get Bagley on the Lakers and just have the top 3 picks for that draft.
Yeah. If the Lakers win a game without Luka and Austin, I think it's one of the more impressive accomplishments of LeBron's Lakers tenure.
Oh my God.
Lakers tenure.
Which, by the way, dude, 41 years old, games played, 21, 6 and 7, half a block, 1.2 steals, 52, 32, 74. Just, oh my God, coach disappeared from the screen. We've lost a man. I'll keep going. Yeah, it's just been an absurd season again. LeBron just like finding a way to be a star for a team. Every time that we kind of thought he was tailing off in a particularly significant way, of course he's not himself from a few years ago. Of course there's been a decline in usage and volume that he can take on, but like he's still been great. It's really sad he doesn't get the chance to be like the third best guy on a team with longer term aspirations in the playoffs. But yeah, it's not going to happen because it's LeBron, Luke Kennard, Marcus Smart, Jake LaRavia, DeAndre Ayton, Rui, Vando, Kleba. Like, give me a break, dude.
This is worse than the 2018 Cavs by like, this is like the 2007 Cavs, and it's not 2007 LeBron. Yeah, they're severely lacking. They're severely outmatched in talent and particularly athleticism. Like, you can slow the Rockets down if you're a reasonably good team and just like sort of gum up their offense. They'll probably play a shit ton of zone in this series because they just don't have the foot speed to keep up with the Rockets, like perimeter guys one-on-one. Amen Thompson would just drive by pretty much every single player on the Lakers roster. Maybe Marcus Smart, but the Rockets will just have a ton of bodies to throw at LeBron between Eason, Amen, Jabari, like just so many guys they can throw LeBron's direction to make him sweat. And the Lakers have no one that they can throw at Kevin Durant to make him uncomfortable. Like Marcus Smart can try to do the thing where he like gets up under his chest but that's not really going to work. Rui can try to guard Kevin Durant. That's probably going to be plan A.
They're going to get mauled on the boards, even without Steven Adams. Like they're just going to get mauled because, sure, sag off of Amen Thompson. Like you've still got Tari Eason and Şengün, these massive bodies just waiting at the rim to just swallow balls, finish, kick out for threes. I mentioned this a couple times on the pod. I love the synergy between KD and Reed. I can tell Reed is his favorite teammate because he's just like the purest, most skilled hooper on the team after Kevin Durant. Yeah, they're overmatched. And it is a really good opportunity for Amen Thompson to find his half-court scoring rhythm against a team that will just be like overmatched and too injured to put up much of a fight. Because that's really the last piece for Amen. Like everyone knows he's one of the best wing defenders alive, one of the best athletes ever, right up there with like the magical Westbrooks of NBA history. But the question is like, what happens when teams forget close out to you? Like they don't come near you when you're on the perimeter in the playoffs if you're Amen Thompson. And how is he going to handle that? He is great at finishing in transition. He's great at using that space people give him to like find guys because he has such a massive view of the court, a la Rondo back in the day. But he's got to find his scoring rhythm, the floaters, the runners, all the things he can do around the rim when he's not dunking, so that in the next series, he has a chance to be more efficient and higher volume than he was last year against Golden State.
Yeah. If Luka and/or Austin could come back by game 4, then this has the chance of being a real series. But otherwise, I think it'll be over by 5 at the latest. All right, let's move east. First, real quick on Detroit, who could play either Charlotte or Orlando. I think everyone here would be much happier if they played Charlotte from an entertainment.
I can't watch Paolo anymore. I can't.
Really can't.
It's unwatchable. It's
painful.
He was born 20 years too late. Maybe in 2005, his game would have fit a little bit better. But honestly, like it would just sort of be like a bad facsimile of Carmelo Anthony's game. It's so frustrating. And I know the spacing on that team isn't good, but it's so frustrating watching him just settle for 20-footer after 20-footer and turn the ball over. He was someone who I loved coming out of the draft. I thought he could be like a super rich man's Julius Randle, but he just doesn't have that physical downhill driving game. And yeah, I really hope it's Charlotte in the next round because they are a lot more fun to watch. They're completely stylistically the opposite of the Detroit Pistons, which I think would lend itself to a really entertaining series. And I do think that they could make it like a series that could go a little bit further, like game 6 maybe, because Cade's still getting his win back. Detroit is a little bit liable to get ground down into the mud offensively sometimes. Any quick thoughts on Detroit in this first round?
Quick, just on those points, Max. Like I would trade Paolo tomorrow once the Orlando season ends. I guess they won't do it, but if you could ask teams in the past that have players like that, they would have done it at this time. I completely agree with your idea about the styles being really different when it's Charlotte versus Detroit. I just think the structure of Detroit is going to be like a mind game with Charlotte, and the chaos might work for a game. It could go 6, as you're saying, but I just think Detroit's structure is going to be really hard for Charlotte to kind of get over. And my question is it going to be more fights or more games in that series? And I kind of would lean fights.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in a past iteration of Jalen Duren, I'd be worrying about the Musa Diabate matchup. Like, is he fast enough, changing ends? Is he switchable enough on the perimeter that like they could actually win the big man matchup in a theoretical Hornets series? I just feel like Detroit is so proven and so professional at this point, and Duren's taken such a big step in every regard. And even when Duren's off, which has been rare this year, like Beef Stew is ready to go and moves a little bit better laterally and is developed into a really formidable rim protector for them. So yeah, I've got Detroit no matter who it is. But again, I keep saying it, like the Hornets are going to have one of the best offenses in the league next year. Yeah. They're like the second half of the season, they've just been raining threes, pushing with pace. LaMelo has been more locked in than I've ever seen him, even though he should be suspended for at least one game for what he did to Bam. This team just has a lot of weapons, and like Con Knipple can literally go cold and sit the end of an important game, and they still have more than enough answers on offense and shot creation, and not just shot creators, but playmakers. Like Kobe White is a really good passer when he doesn't have to run the show for your team. So yeah, I'm pumped about Charlotte. It's a beautiful story. Shout out JR. I hope you're listening. But Detroit's too much. If Cade's lung is intact, Detroit's too much.
Yeah, Duran, he's gonna get most improved votes. I think he would be my pick for most improved player. And his improvement hasn't been like he had great numbers last year, and he was a relatively well-known player last year, but they were a worse team with him on the court last year compared to off. And this year it's like they're way better with him on the court. And a lot of that has been defensive improvement. In the Knicks series last year, like it was a big deal when Isaiah Stewart got injured because the Pistons were playing the Knicks tougher with Isaiah Stewart out there than they were with Duran. And I just think his improvement has been probably the biggest factor behind the Pistons' rise this year. So very excited to see how he looks in the playoffs. And yeah, as we said, hopefully against Charlotte. Moving on.
By the way, just want to say Detroit pulled off one of the wildest turnarounds in NBA history. They're the first team in the history of the league to go from 60-plus losses to 60-plus wins within a 2-season span. Shout out Motor City.
There we go. All right, Celtics Sixers for what feels like the millionth time of the 21st century, sorry. Embiid in the latest just unbelievable injury and illness series of unfortunate events that is his career. Appendicitis, appendectomy, probably returning between games 4 and 5 based on the history of this recovery. It said like 18 games or 18 days is the median. So that would put him around April 24th or 25th, which is kind of between game 3 and game 5. So if he comes back as himself in game 4, the series I think looks different. But coach, what's your read here, Celtics Sixers?
My read, yeah, I mean, a healthy Embiid makes the series a little bit different. I still think the Celtics would win it. I think their guard play would be really dynamic against a quote unquote healthy Embiid still. For me, I am guaranteeing that the Sixers win game 1. Like I am so confident in that. I think Maxey goes for like 40 in that game. VJ has like some crazy dunks, some great blocks against Tatum and Jalen, but I think at the end of the day, I don't trust Paul George in a series like this. I think VJ is awesome. He's really young. They're putting a lot of pressure on Kelly making the threes, Grimes making threes, Andre Drummond now making corner threes. Like it's all working in a fun night against Orlando, but I think Boston has a whole other story. And I know I said it, but I think the guards in Pritchard and in Derek White could have a really fun series against the Sixers here. I know VJ can guard, and Maxey had some great steals in the game the other night, but I think the pace of play, especially in Missoula's style, is not going to fit well against Philly, and I got the Celtics in at 5.
Yeah. Drew?
Boston's offense this year was just bizarrely historic. This offense, in 30 seasons with play-by-play data, there have been only 14 games where a team scored 150-plus points per 100 possessions. This year's Celtics had 4 of those 14 all-time games. So there are just these nights where Derek White and Peyton Pritchard are just feeling it. They're going to make 8 threes. They can both make 8 threes on the same night. Takes the burden off of Jaylen Brown, who is, the Celtics are 8 points better when he's off the floor. But, the mainstream media wants you to believe that can't mean anything.
Yeah.
I mean, even strangers that the Celtics were a top 2 offense somehow without Tatum this year. Top 2 offense for the 4th straight season, despite finishing 11th in effective field goal percentage and last in free throw rate.
Yeah.
So the Celtics just continue to find a way. It doesn't matter who it is. I told you, I think Shireman's going to step up in a big way for them in the playoffs. Just a fearless shot maker with a fuck you attitude. So it's Boston all the way for me. I'm not even sure the health for the Sixers makes a real difference there. But we'll see.
I do think there's a non-zero chance that Maxey could be the best player in the series. I think it's him versus Jalen versus whatever version of Tatum we're getting. I think I'd probably want Maxey the most of those 3 guys, but the supporting talent overall shooting on the Boston roster just makes it like too much of a hill for one guy to overcome. And they have a lot of guys to throw at Maxey as well, or at least they have Derek White. If Embiid comes back as himself-ish in game 4, I think we could maybe see a game 6 in here. I do think Philly will steal a game on the back of Maxey. Maybe it's not game 1. Maybe it is, as coach said. But I do think they'll get a game. Maybe there's a game where we've seen in the playoffs, the Celtics can be vulnerable to poor shooting nights because they take so many threes. And this year they've just leaned into that even more with the sort of some of the headline talent that went out the door this offseason. I'd say Celtics in 5, maybe 6 if Embiid comes back and can be anything close to himself.
I've said it before, I'll say it again. Nimi Keita is a really good center. So like what was supposed to be just a not even close matchup in the paint versus Philly in a theoretical series this year is a little bit more interesting, even with healthy Embiid. Keita's strong, he walls up, and he does the simple stuff that half the teams in the league wish their starting big man would do. But yeah, I think Boston handles it.
Yeah. All right. Now, probably the most interesting series in the East as well, I would think. The Knicks against the Hawks. I'm here in my Jalen Brunson shirt. So I've got the Hawks in 5. No, I don't. But I think Drew might.
Yeah, I have the Hawks winning this series.
Tell me why.
I think they're 18-5 since February. They've just been on fire. They might have the best player in the series. Jalen Johnson is definitely a better trade asset than Jalen Brunson. You could argue Brunson is still a better playoff player. The answer is we have no idea with Jalen Johnson. We're about to find out.
It could be argued.
But yeah, I mean, he's a more complete player. That's not even close. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker, I mean, just absurd finishing and also like long range shooting for him, which was always kind of a swing skill for him. And he's just been drilling threes all year. He has a two-way presence. Like every like defensive rating stat that I don't really understand says that Nickeil Alexander-Walker is a two-way monster for them this year. And they just keep winning. I love Okongwu. I basically love 6 guys on their team. And so I'm not going to pick them to make a deep run because I just think they don't have the depth the way the league is configured now to win multiple series. But I think that the top end talent and just being hot at the right time against a Knicks team that's just been up and down and up and down, this could be very interesting. And don't forget, Okongwu has completely opened up his game offensively as a stretch 5. And that is always a bit of a worry when Cat is across from him, because Cat will inevitably have to guard in space, have to come out to the 3-point line a little bit more than the Knicks are comfortable with. And look, Mitchell Robinson per minute, as good as everyone except for a handful of bigs in the league. But Mitchell Robinson just has not shown the ability to play more than 25 minutes, even when the Knicks need to win to save their season. So
it's proven to be enough.
I kind of just think of the Hawks as a super talented college team that doesn't give a fuck, feels so liberated from all the Trae Young shit. No one expects them to win, and yet they are talented enough to do it. The whole world has quit on Zachary Rizashea, but I still like him. I think it's preposterous they took him first, but I think he has real NBA skills outside of being a serviceable shooter, and I just don't buy that he's going to be a complete disaster of a career. So I'm going to Atlanta. I don't think it's going to mean a ton unless they find ways to really add on to their roster in the short term, which they can because they've got a nice little pick that New Orleans decided to hand to them. But I think the top end talent, the youth, the confidence, almost the beginners, dumb confidence and bravado of being in the dance now will take them a long way against a tense, potentially locker room in New York that we have a lot of questions about, despite the fact that, they've also been pretty solid when you just take a step back.
Yeah. Coach, you go, then I'll go.
I'll be quick. I'll let you run. run the floor here. I wish I had the courage that Drew did to take the Hawks here. I really want to. I really think that it is possible. I'm gonna go Knicks in 6, maybe 7. The thing for me about why I think the Hawks have a real shot here, I think that CJ and that Nikhil can really hunt Brunson here. If they're playing at the right pace, they have players to throw at Jalen. They have Dyson. They have Ricochet, as Drew was saying. I think it comes down to the half court offense and like how ready Atlanta is. It's going to be a lot on CJ to kind of, create end of shot clock there. For them, this series kind of reminds me of Detroit last year against New York, where I think a few of the, not like play style, but kind of just think a few of the bounces are going to go the Knicks way. Maybe get a call here or there. Maybe get a little Tim Hardaway Jr. fouled 3 here or there, like Detroit was last year. But for me, I think Brunson is enough to get them over the hump here, but I'm really excited for it.
Yeah. All right. Let me tell you first, I'll say the things that concern me about this matchup, and then I'll tell you why I ultimately think the Knicks will win it. Some concerning things for sure. Number one for me is the Dyson Daniels plus Nickeil Alexander-Walker combination defensively. Just two guys who are really like tailor-made to guard Brunson. Dyson Daniels, Brunson started to figure him out, I think, the last few games they've played each other. But in the past, Dyson Daniels has shown an ability to really hold up one-on-one against Brunson. He's one of the best on-ball guard defenders in the league. So that is one concerning thing. And the other thing that worries me a bit is in that particular matchup, Brunson has a tendency to really try to prove that Dyson Daniels isn't bothering him, or like the elite defender on the other side isn't bothering him, which can take the Knicks out of kind of their ideal offensive hierarchy, which is, Brunson still running the show, but with enough shots distributed to Bridges and Anunoby and Towns and down the lineup. When it becomes like Brunson's taking 30 shots because he's trying to do a mano-a-mano with Dyson Daniels and the rest of the roster is kind of sitting, waiting around, that's when I get concerned. But I do think Brunson has started to figure that matchup out a little bit more. And frankly, the last game they played against Atlanta, which was a close game, but in large part due to, I think, some pretty dumb turnovers from the Knicks, the ball was really whipping around, and Towns in particular looked really good, which I'll get back to. The other concerning thing is the Knicks are typically a low turnover team, and the Hawks have shown an ability to turn them over a little bit more. And then, as you said, the guards hunting Brunson, I think, is a little bit of a concerning thing. On the flip side, the Knicks do have very good bodies to throw at the Hawks' top scoring options. Like OG is exactly the body you would want to throw at Jalen Johnson. Mikal Bridges, he's not an elite on-ball defender, but I think against sort of guys with the build of Nickeil Alexander-Walker and the skill set of Nickeil, he's a really good option to throw. They've got Deuce, they've got Josh Hart. Like the players who excel for the Hawks offensively are at the areas where the Knicks have their best defenders. So that's one. Number two, which was really clear in the last episode, is the Knicks have a big size advantage in this matchup. And the Hawks, they're very big at the sort of 3 and 4 spots, but Onyeka is an undersized center, and they still play, McCollum and multiple guards out there at the same time. And they're not necessarily the strongest team, even if they're very
Cat
long.
is an oversized center.
So
why don't we talk about being oversized more? I don't know, dude. Like, I feel like Okongwu is a properly sized center in 2026. I really do.
he's like 6'8", 6'9". That's
But he's got like that Isaiah
Length.
Stewart length. Yeah, again, like, you don't play basketball with your head. He's got the shoulders. He's dense. He's always been super strong. He's explosive. Like, I don't think Okongwu's size is the issue, but at other positions, I'll hear you out.
fair. But Robinson. I'm having flashbacks to
PTSD.
2021. Yeah. Robinson looked really dominant in the last game that these two teams played against each other. And he's shown every year that he's better in the playoffs than he is in the regular season. And when you have him night after night, he can kind of wear on a team almost in the way that, like, in football, a Derrick Henry wears on a team where, like, they just get tired of tackling him over and over again. You get tired of boxing out Mitchell Robinson, tired of playing defense for 22 seconds just to have to do it all over again because the Knicks get an offensive rebound. I think it's going to be an ugly series for the Knicks because I think the Hawks can gum up some of the ball movement, as I've said. But I just think the offensive rebounding combined with in the clutch in a close game, I'm just going to trust Jalen Brunson and the rest of the Knicks kind of infrastructure and shared experience that they've built up over the last 4 years over this Hawks team, which is pretty new playing together. CJ McCollum is their kind of go-to bucket getter down the stretch. And I'm just going to trust Brunson over McCollum in a clutch battle. So I think it's going to be a really tight, stressful series. I would pick 6. I think I'm feeling either a really competitive 5 that takes years off of my life or a 6 that doesn't feel quite that competitive. I would say 5 is more likely than 7 is where I'm at in my current mindset on the series. And yeah, I think it's going to be a good town series. I think it's going to be a big Mitchell Robinson series, and the Knicks will just be able to kind of lean on the Hawks enough to wear them down for a pretty young and experienced team over the course of, let's say, 6 games.
I think you really need this to be a really good town series because I think some series down the line, if you're going to have a nice little run for the Knicks, he's going to not be finishing some games based on foul trouble and based on defensive play getting targeted.
Yeah.
So I think confidence-wise and, play-wise to kind of convince him for the greater good of the team, you're going to really need that. But I think 5 is looking a little too positive there.
Could be.
I'm excited for this one.
I love Okongwu. It is terrifying that Mo Gay is their second string center.
They're not a deep team.
And Tony Bradley without the sheen of the Pacers
Carlisle.
magic. Yeah, I don't know.
Dust.
I don't know how that's going to work. Obviously, the Hawks traded Porzingis for parts and are left with a very thin front court. So they're going to probably have to hope that a bunch of small lineups cause the Knicks bigs trouble. It's again like one of the under-discussed mini stories of the year that like Dyson Daniels refuses to shoot now and like something has happened to his outside shot and
19% from 3.
But he's gonna have to play 40 minutes a night for them in this series. So that is a puzzle to solve for Atlanta's offense. But this is an offense in Atlanta that is 11 points per 100 possessions better since the All-Star break. That is the biggest offensive uptick post All-Star break in 27 seasons. Will it be playoff proof? Maybe not. I can totally imagine a world where Nickeil Alexander-Walker is asked to take on too much usage. They're not going anywhere near Dyson on the perimeter. And it's just too much to ask of Jalen Johnson, even though he's answered every call this year. But I don't know, man. There's something kind of fun happening in Atlanta, and I can sleep easy knowing that I'm picking a team that has been about as hot as anyone now for a couple of months.
Yeah. Last 3 thoughts for me. One, in looking through the schedule of this really hot streak after the Trae Young trade, there are a lot of cupcakes on that schedule. I will say, there's a lot of Washingtons and Brooklyns and teams of that nature. Sorry, coach. So that is one thing. The one more cause for concern and optimism for me. Concern is that the Hawks do play that kind of freewheeling style that the Pacers gave the Knicks issues with in terms of you don't really know where the offense is going to come from on any particular possession. It could just flow from Na to CJ to Jalen Johnson, and everyone's kind of getting bites at the apple. So the Knicks it's going to force the Knicks to make a lot of decisions defensively, which they're better when they can operate in just kind of a simple scheme when they know what's coming at them. But going back to the shooting, and you mentioned Dyson Daniels, who's shooting 19% from 3 this year. I just think in a playoff setting, in tight situations, how many guys on the Hawks do you really trust to make threes? You trust McCollum. I think at this point you trust Na. He's become a really good shooter. He's 40% on the season. But outside of that, in their core guys, like Daniels, as you mentioned, has been a dreadful shooter, which probably means he's going to hit 5 threes in the game 1. Jalen Johnson has improved as a shooter, but he's still, I would say he's kind of in the Josh Hart class of shooters where he can make them, but he's not going to be guarded like a shooter. Same with Onyeka. He can make them, but he's not like Kristaps out there.
Kispert's going to make them.
Kispert's going to make him, but he doesn't play that much compared
Yeah.
to, and he's such a liability defensively. Lakers fans would tell you about Gabe Vincent never making a shot for them over the course of like a year and a half. So I just think the lack of shooting is also going to hold them back.
You're disrespecting Tony Bradley, who's a 50% 3-point shooter this year, even though it's on 0.7 attempts. But no, it's a great call. I think end of game, fourth quarter, they're going to get really, really tight there, and the spray outs might not be there as much as it is for New York.
Devil's advocate, since I'm picking them, the Hawks go super small. They end up carving out like nothing special in terms of shooting, but as much as the Knicks when Josh Hart plus one other so-so shooters on the floor, which is a lot of the time for New York. It's, that's been one of the bigger questions for a Knicks team that, on paper, raw numbers deserves more respect than I'm giving them. But it's that their most talented players, your favorite 5 or 6 guys on the Knicks, don't add up to that many like lineup combinations that sound great. You're always kind of wishing that Deuce was in this group, and when Bridges is really cold, like you still got to play him because he's such a savvy two-way guy, but like maybe you'd rather have Diawara on the floor. It's just that the complicatedness of this deep but slightly wonky Knicks build, and I just think maybe in one series, one spin of the wheel, the Hawks have enough talent and enough belief to get it done.
I will say, of the 4 first-round series in the East, I think this is the most likely to go 7. And I think
also Quinn Snyder or Mike Brown?
Snyder, but
we're all taking Mr. Glasses. Snyder.
But Tibbs beat Missoula last year, so like doesn't mean everything.
True.
I think this is. I just think there's a big drop off after the 4th team in the East. Like I think the top 4 in the East is pretty flat from a quality perspective. Like I think Cleveland provides a lot of matchup issues for Detroit. Detroit provides a lot of matchup issues for the Knicks. The Knicks can, as we've seen last year, provide matchup issues for the Celtics. I think there's not a ton of separation between those top 4 teams, and I just think there's a big drop off once you get past the Cavs. So I think honestly, of all the 4 teams, like the Cavs might, and we'll get to them next, the Cavs might be like the team that their series I feel the most confident in of anyone. But I just think all 4 of these East teams at the top should take care of business without getting to a game 7 in this first round. All right. Finishing up, Raptors, Cavs. I've already penciled in on my schedule that this will be the series I watch the fewest minutes of. Coach, how do you feel about Raptors, Cavs?
I feel great. As you guys know, the Cavs are my finals pick. Heading into the season, I had Cavs Denver. I cannot believe I am still on the bandwagon here. Just to jump to it, I have Thunder Cavs now, so I didn't stay on the bandwagon on Jokic's wagon, which is upsetting. But the thing you're saying there, Max, where it's like really flat, and I think Cleveland lines up really well with Detroit. I know I'm looking ahead there, but I think offensive wise, I don't see how the Raptors can really score with them. If Mitchell has a really good series, I am Harden's number 1 hater, but I think he can kind of get to his spots, especially if they're going to throw their primary defenders onto Mitchell there. I think Mobley can have a lot of fun this series too. And then with Cleveland spacing as well, they have a few options that they can throw out there too. I kind of have been heartbroken by this team every single year. They always let me down. There's just something kind of about the way they're playing right now. I think Dennis Schroeder could have a really fun series in this one too. I think he can help out a lot of teams. I remember watching him in Detroit last year, kind of playoff time, end the shot clock, find a bucket. If Harden's going slow, if Mitchell's off, like they have guys that they can really throw the ball to. Love what Toronto did. I think it was 2 years ago I said that Toronto was going to make the playoffs. That was 1 year too early. So I will still claim Raptors Island, but it's not going to be enough in this one. I have Cleveland in 5.
Yeah. Drew?
Yeah, I'm going Cleveland. I want you to know I thought long and hard. We'll continue to sleep on the season that Scotty Barnes just turned in. He is one of the most fun, clutch defensive playmakers I saw all year. And this is a team that has a few guys who feel like the best Miami Heat on the right year. You know, when the Heat were still the Heat, like Jamal Shed, Colin Murray Boyles, Scotty Barnes. These are playoff dudes. Like Jamal Shed is going to have some electric moments in this series. I promise you that. What really gives me pause with Toronto is just it's been really awkward now for a little while with Quickly, who isn't quite good enough for the life that he wanted for himself as like the lead guard on a contender in the NBA. It's just not who he is. He is like probably at his best, like the best third guard in the league and the sort of two-way sixth man at the point of attack that is really fun to have on your team, which is why he was amazing for the Knicks in his role in a lot of moments for them. But every time they ramp up his usage just a little bit more and he gets to take too many shots, that's when you start seeing the like the May birthday stat lines, the 5 for 17s, the 5 for 11s. You know, that's 5 for 11 would be fine. But I just know from watching every time I tune into an Emmanuel Quickly experience, it's like the flashes are there. He's an elastic shooter. He navigates screens well. He has some crafty finishing ability, but he wants it to be at a degree of volume that I just don't think his game can quite handle with his size and strength limitations. And so the bar is just so high for like having the ball in your hands in the playoffs and winning series. And when it comes down to it, like the Cavs will have the ball in Donovan Mitchell's hands. I'm confident that despite Harden's selfishness, like they'll be able to get the ball to the right guys enough to overcome a really tough, big, strong defense in Toronto, but that probably just can't score for a full series with Cleveland.
Yeah. Coach, do you have something
I
there?
was going to say, yeah, just before you go, I forgot to mention in my rundown, I think Keon Ellis, I think that acquisition is going to be huge in this series and the playoffs to come too. It's just, for some reason, I feel very different about this Cleveland year compared to other years. I think they have different kinds of guys and players that have been through experiences that have kind of been the downfall of Cleveland. I think they made some really savvy additions this year that are perfect for playoff basketball. I say every year, like playoff basketball is a different sport compared to the regular season. And I think that they have the exact guys outside of Mr. Harden to make a run, but I'm going to put that behind me and
Jimbo.
Yeah.
Yeah. On playoff basketball being different, concerned with Toronto, similar to Atlanta in that of their core players, there's not a lot of guys who you really fear as shooters. Ingram has shot the three pretty well this year. Historically, he's run pretty hot and cold as a three-point shooter. Scotty Barnes, not feared as a three-point shooter. RJ Barrett, same deal. Pirtle, non-factor out there. CMB, we love Colin Murray Boyles, and hopefully he gets to introduce himself to some fans these playoffs, but not a shooter at this point. And yeah, I worry about that. I worry about their ability to keep up with Cleveland's offense. And yeah, when I say that there's a huge drop off after number 4 in the East, looking at records versus teams over 500 and under 500, when you look at the versus below 500 record, it looks very similar from the top of the East, honestly, all the way down to Milwaukee. It was underrated just how bad some of these East teams were this year, which I think led to a lot of these teams down the standings kind of fattening up. Like Milwaukee was 18-10, almost had twice as many wins and losses against below 500 teams. Every team in the top 7 is like 26-6, 25-6, 24-6 in that range against below 500 teams, where the cream separates from the crop or the wheat from the chaff is the 500 and above records, where the Pistons are almost 20 games above 500 against teams that are 500 and above. I should phrase that in a less confusing way. Pistons are over 20 games above 500 against winning teams. Celtics, 10 games above 500 against winning teams. The Knicks, 6 games above 500 against winning teams. The Cavs, a few games above 500 against winning teams. And then everyone else in the East is significantly below the 50-50 line against winning teams. Like Toronto, 22-30 against winning teams. Atlanta, 23-30. Same for Orlando. Philly, basically the same route. So I think to a large degree, these teams 5 and below in the East have really fattened up on some of the bad teams in the league. And I just don't trust them in like bright lights playoff moments to strike that much fear into the heart of these top 4 teams is kind of where I'm landing. So I would pick the Cavs. Honestly, over the Raptors might be the pick I'm most confident in of the 4 East series, and that they will get it done in like 4 or 5 games.
I just really want to see how Scotty's offense translates to this series, because you could easily argue that he is the most valuable piece to build around. I would still go Evan Mobley personally. But it's just one of those playoff things where like I can talk my shit and say things about the Brunsons and the Donovan Mitchells of the world, but every single playoffs, you need the ball in the hands of a savant with that sort of shot making ability, and the Cavs just have more of it. Not to mention Strus is back. Like this Jalen Tyson has a chance now to cement himself as like a key piece of their situation going forward. I will say, like, the Raptors have a lot of talent, like a lot of like latent like guys that can be amazing on their night. Jacoby Walter is shooting 45% from 3 the last 3 months. He's been on a shooting tear. He plays about half the game, and he's nothing. He's not a series changer, but he is the kind of outside shooter energy wing that they need, with, Scotty and Pirtle needing to play big minutes. I believe that the Raptors will just be overwhelmed in terms of scoring, but I'm not writing them off as like an interesting project. I think you've been a little bit dismissive of this Raptors leap.
A little bit.
They feel a little bit like Blazers East to me. Like there's a lot of good stuff happening. No one thinks they're going to take another leap until like they find another like real game changing piece. But these guys go to war for Darko, man. Darko only needs 1 or 2 wins to produce like some all-time locker room clips in this series.
I've been
a really
Darko
fun
guy.
coach matchup.
Yeah, I've been a Darko guy since like those clips of him in the locker room started coming out. I was like, oh, this guy's got me ready to run through a wall.
Yeah.
Happy you brought up Jalen Tyson. I'm hopeful that he can be someone who like pops on the scene as not a household name, but like an informed NBA fan household name in these playoffs, because we both loved him in the draft, and I think he's going places for sure. Yeah, coach.
One little fun thing about the series too. I've been to a playoff game in both Toronto and Cleveland. These are some top tier crab pops. Speaking about pop, like a Scotty dunk, a Donovan step back 3. I think we're gonna have some really fun. It will be a short series, I do believe. Max, I fully agree with you. But I think there's going to be some really, really fun moments in this one. So while it might be quick, I think we're going to have a really cool one here.
Yeah. All right. Final words. Let's do conference finals predictions. We won't pick like the whole bracket. But, Coach, you said you had Thunder over Cavs as your finals pick?
I have Thunder over Cavs finals pick. I said Thunder in 5. I think that'll be a quick one. I have Thunder over Nuggets. And I have Cavs over Celtics. I think the matchup in the East, as you were saying earlier, I think the Cavs match up really well in Detroit. I think the Knicks do match up well against Boston. I just kind of think this Boston year is really special. And then I trust Donovan, who's been really good against Boston, to go up against them. And then in the West, I am a massive Survivor fan. Few things will make me not watch an episode. The Thunder Nuggets series is going to be must watch every single night, and I can't wait.
Drew,
what if you have a date on that night? Sounds
DVD.
Like things have been going pretty well. If you marry the girl you've got on a few dates with, we'll come back to this episode. Don't worry, she's not going to find it. Coach's face is going to turn bright red now.
Right.
I have Thunder over Pistons. I came really close. I was Nuggets a few days ago. J-Dub hasn't gotten a chance to express himself for a long period of time, but I have to believe that all of the load management, all of the weird, why did iHeart play 16 minutes tonight when they said he was healthy? Why is J-Dub missing 20 more weeks than we thought he was going to miss? I think it's because they already have their ring. They have every regular season accolade in the books, except the all-time wins record, which who knows, maybe they'll go for it next year. This team has been waiting for this moment. It was pretty badass when Shea said earlier in the year that he was not happy about the way the finals went last year, because there was so much truth in that. Like, of course, we're all told to be amazing teammates. And if you win the ring, you win the ring and you don't complain and everything was perfect. But that was an underwhelming run for OKC in certain ways. Against Denver, but squeezing time on offense was a journey. The offense dried up. There was too much Shea iso ball when he needed to get other people going, and he wasn't always his all-time efficient self. It's so like for this season, it's almost like a perverse blessing that they underwhelmed at moments last postseason run, because they feel like this is the time to cement themselves as an all-time great team. So I have them figuring it out over Denver. Obviously, I have Denver beating San Antonio. I talked about that on the last episode. Like, not going to pretend that's an easy pick. It's just what my heart is telling me. And then in the finals, it's Shea against Cade. And I think that it's actually everyone else on the Thunder that makes that series just a 6-game repeat for the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah, Likewise, I think it would go Thunder over Pistons in the finals. Likewise, really tempted to pick the Nuggets as my champion. I'm at the point where I'd be very surprised if a team from the East won the championship. I just think those top 3 in the West are significantly above any team in the East. I think the Thunder are a little bit sort of deeper from a shot creation perspective with AJ Mitchell coming on, with some of the steps that guys down the roster have made. And just, I think they'll be a little bit more prepared for some of those kind of clutch moments where, like, they had 2 series go 7 last year, but the Denver series had kind of 2 insane finishes where it could have easily been like a 5-game series if things didn't go that way. Same with the Pacers series with like Halliburton making that crazy comeback in game 1. That could have been a 5 or 6 game series if a couple bounces go a different way. So I think they'll be a little bit more prepared for those, and I'm going to go with them. In the East, the Pistons have been the best team all year long. There's a lot of momentum on the Celtics side for sure, but I don't think from a talent perspective, they're significantly better than like the other 3 teams at the top of the East. And I just trust the Pistons defense, I think, as a unit, maybe more than any other individual unit of those top 4 teams. And it just kind of feels like it's their year. And I think they're going to have great crowds all through the playoffs.
Thunder defense.
Huh?
Thunder defense.
I'm talking about the East.
Okay. East. Okay. I also have Boston. I hate how uncreative we are here, though. I mean, the Cavs is an exciting pick. So thank you, Coach, for injecting some life into the show.
That's why you brought me on.
Every single year, the Wolves, the Pacers, the Knicks shocking the Celtics in Boston. Like, every year, it's a little different than we think. We all wrote off the Raptors. The Raptors could end up winning 2 rounds. Like, it's just every year there's a curveball. Since we are no longer in the like Cavs Warriors hegemony that we went to college for. So I'm already mad at myself for not getting a little bit more bold, but this is the way I see it.
You're only mad because I said the same thing.
No, I'm mad because I have 1-2 versus 1-3, but also, a lot of the craziness ends up being injuries. The Knicks should have taken care of business against the Pacers in back-to-back years. Injuries were the reason a couple years ago. Last year, just absolute crazy Indiana shenanigans.
Double magic.
Yeah. But what did you say?
I said devil magic.
Devil magic. But Hallie has put on 100 pounds, so you might be in the clear next year.
The other end of that deal.
There's going to be chaos. There's going to be one shock Cinderella team, and maybe it's the Cavs, because the Cavs getting to the finals to me would be a massive shock.
Yeah. All right. That is the first round playoff preview. We will be back as these games start going. I'm extremely pumped that we have playoff basketball here finally to play. If the play-in games are any indication, it's going to be a great playoffs, and we're at least relatively healthy outside of Los Angeles going into it. So let's hope it stays that way. Coach, thank you for joining. Hope to have you back soon, and we'll be back soon. Peace.